Think carefully before you do this.
You filthy criminals.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, we are live. Live. So it's Friday, 8 o'clock on the dot, February 26th. And real quick, we're going to get some bees nice out of the way. We're going to talk about our Two Fat Guys Pull List Mystery Pool, sponsored by Collected Comics and Games and Brainy Comics. So this month, February pool is coming to a close. You can still order, but you got to order the last day you can order is this Sunday, the 28th. And so if you're interested in partaking or joining the community of our mystery pool, crap, I have the wrong button again. You'll get one store exclusive, which is Venom 32, I believe, the Kirkman variant, I think it was called. And then you will be in the running for the winning of Venom number 9, the first appearance of Dylan Brock, big key issue worth about $80. And then you will also get 4 to 7 back issues, consisting anything from bronze, silver, or modern age books. And if you get your got to get your order in or your subscription in by this Sunday, and then after that, Ron will have the subscriptions mailed out, and I believe the end of the first week of March. Hey, what up, James? Thank you for the subscription. Loved your stream last night. I had a lot of fun watching. He does this really cool thing where he pulls cards when somebody subscribes. He's got like a box filled with trading cards and like random cards, and one of them, the one that he pulled for me, was from the movie Shadow. So it was pretty cool. All right, so yeah, that's our business right now. So again, if you're interested in our mystery pool and you want to win that key, a possibility of winning that Venom number 9, you have to subscribe by this Sunday. Go to brainycomics.com, and I think we're like the 4th or 5th option for the subscription. So that is that. So we're going to get into our show this week. I think we have about 15 books. Originally, I think we started at 12, and then we added 3. So, yeah. So we'll get right into it. It's, again, another big King in Black tie-in week. So we're going to kick it off with Black Cat number 3. So we left Black Cat number 2 with Black Cat getting a hold of Doctor Strange's staff that was made from the World Tree of Asgard, and she turned into an Asgardian witch, which was pretty cool.
Essentially.
Yeah, and so what we get in this issue is her coming to terms with those powers, and what we learn is she is basically stuck in her own like mindscape with the staff itself, which contains a very ancient and old. And I can't even remember. Did they say chaos magic?
I believe so. Yes.
Did that line
chaos
drop?
magic? But they were like, chaos magic isn't really real, but chaos magic.
Chaos magic, which is
okay.
Have you seen WandaVision yet?
This week?
Yeah.
Like today's? No.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well,
Watch it afterwards.
Anyway, chaos magic gets dropped in this issue, and she's in 2 places at once. So she's having a dialogue with this very ancient old magic, chaos magic, that is offering her essentially all the power in the world and the universe. You know what I mean? Just insane amount of power. And while she's doing this, having that dialogue, she's actually fighting symbiote dragons in the real world, and she's literally just whipping ass, like just shredding dragons in half. She's got her own, like, she's, Black Cat's got claws, so in her Asgardian farm, she's able to like slash the sky, and you just see like Asgardian dragons just being split in half. Like, think
that was
like,
one of my favorite panels of like the whole week. Was that?
Yeah, because she like does it X, and you see it like it's not like rips; it's literally just slashes. So they just like it's like a samurai move. So while that's going on outside in the real world, she's having this dialogue with this ancient magic, and it's trying to entice her to accept this magic. So there's something fishy going on between Black Cat and this ancient spirit. I don't know how you really explain it. And so she's being tempted. So she's shown all of her defeats, whether it's Venom or Dr. Octopus or, all these different scenarios in her history where she's lost. And then she's shown, everything she could gain if she accepts this power. And it's looking, we know that Black Cat is a greedy individual, right? She, that's her character arc. She steals things. And so when the magic being shows her, everything she could win, like the first scenario, she has the Infinity Gauntlet, and she's making everyone bow down to her, and she's made her parents get back together, and everything that she could ever want. And then the next scenario, she gets all of the people that she's ever fallen in love with or have dated, falls in love with her, very envious of her, and that's when she kind of loses her shit, because she can't deal with that. That's not something she would do. And so while this dialogue is going on in the outside world, again, she's going ham on dragons. Doctor Strange wakes up. He realizes what the hell's going on. He knows it's bad, because I would assume he's been tempted by this power too, and he's figured out a way to claim it or deal with it, rather than Strange isn't really necessarily a greedy individual. Hold on, let me take water, right? So he realizes that this could be there's a big problem here, because he doesn't technically trust Black Cat. He knows that she steals things. So, he thinks there's a good chance that she could accept the bribe and take the full-on power, unleash this power onto the world. And she ends up not taking it. She slashes the throat of the magic being in her mindscape. She escapes and is able to break free from her Asgardian form. I think the funniest part of this book is when Bats is explaining to Doctor Strange how they got to this point. And he's like, a dog's gonna play fetch, right? So I went and got your staff thinking that you'd be awake, but you weren't. So next best thing. And Strange is just like, bro, you messed up. But essentially at the end of the issue, Black Cat's able to break free, and Strange and them are able to push forward. And I think this is a perfect way into issue 4 of King in Black, because we didn't see Strange saved in the King in Black issues that happened in the Black Cat issues. So we were able to kind of connect the dots of how they got to that point before Strange was able to combine everybody's powers and disrupt Null's connection with the Hive Mind. So kind of a nice little backstory of how they got to that point. And I thought it was a really nice look into Black Cat's character development and how she's kind of grown, and she's not necessarily the greediest human being on Earth. So, you got anything on that?
Well, I like that this issue had a good amount of King of Black tie-in and stuff, but it was also very much like a Black Cat book too. And it's similar to what we were talking about with Daredevil last week. These tie-ins are most successful when they can toe the line between honoring their own title and still making sense and being valuable in the overall event. It's a little bit easier here too, since this new book relaunched with the event, so it's not like we're in the middle of an arc and why'd you just drop the ball there? But still, I'm very curious. I know nothing about Black Cat. These 3 books are the only Black Cat I've ever read. I don't know anything about her backstory or anything, so I'm very curious what has happened in her life that set her off so much about using magic to make people love you. That clearly seems like something that was triggering for her. So,
yeah, I mean, there's clearly a connect there in the sense of I think Black Cat's got some daddy issues, obviously, because he apparently faked his death and then resurfaced and just some crazy shit. So she's got some abandonment issues. I mean, her and Spidey have had, their love lives and distrusts. So, she's a very complex character, but I think the best word you use to describe this is, or best word you've used to describe tie-ins right now is value. This, like you said, Daredevil, Black Cat, I think even Valkyrie when we get into it, even though it's a little more deeper and richer in the Jason Aaron, Donny Cates history book, I think that word value is a really good word to use to describe some of these tie-ins. Yeah. And then other ones are like trash, like Namor. We're not even going to review that book.
I didn't even try to read it.
Dude, it's literally sitting here and I didn't even open it. I was like, I opened the last page and I was like, oh, look, there's that stone that's probably going to show up in King of Black 5. But Donnie was like, okay, I have to write this in? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Either way, I enjoyed Black Cat 3. I think the fourth one is a King in Black tie-in. We will see. Is it not? Well, just like I said in our comic book haul video, keep the Pepe Larraz covers coming. I even saw him do a preview to an X-Men cover he's doing, so cross your fingers. We might get some more Pepe, not just in covers, but we will see. But that is Black Cat number 3. On to Return of the Valkyries number 3. We get some Danny Moonstar action in this book. We get I don't know her name, but there's another Valkyrie or not a Valkyrie, but another Asgardian warrior that we're kind of. There are 3 stories going on in this book. There's Danny Moonstar and Valkyrie. There is our unnamed Valkyrie still trying to get her axe, and then I can't remember the name of this.
Hildegard.
So we get a Hildegard story. So the way this book reads, at sometimes I was like, this is awesome, and then at other points I was kind of annoyed with it. It literally chops the story up in between these 3 story arcs. So you get 2 pages here, 2 pages here, 2 pages here. Then you start it over again. 2 pages here, 2 pages here, 2 pages here.
Yeah.
So we get a little bit of backstory from Hildegard. Her training as a young child into adulthood. And she basically in essence, her story is she has to hold the line and essentially sacrifice herself in this book, which I thought was pretty cool because she's kind of a hard ass. She's the tank of the group basically. So she ends up fighting a dragon, a venom dragon, until it's the very last second. The whole point of this book essentially is that they're trying to get back into the void of the headless celestial body that's in between the Earth realm and like limbo, or wherever it's at. And so she's holding the line throughout this book, while Valkyrie and Danny have to go to that middle place and try to get into that reality. And in order to do that, she has to use her all weapon and thread a needle. I got a little confused here. She had to thread a needle into the reality of Limbo into Earth, right?
I was a little confused by that as well. The way it happened was irrelevant. She just was like threading through realities to get to where they needed to go. That's all I really paid attention to.
Right. And in that part of the book, it's basically said that the fact that Valkyrie is doing that, she has a very good chance of losing her life doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
Taking a huge amount of energy, blah, blah, blah. And then our other character, our unnamed Valkyrie, ends up getting her axe. She gets her axe that was originally her axe, but we come to find out that Thor wielded the axe when he was unworthy. And so he's infused that weapon with some godlike powers, so that is kind of an upgrade for her. She's kind of happy about that.
See, and that's actually the thing I dislike the most about this book, which it's like an awkward retcon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess maybe there's going to be some value there, but it's not just the axe that he uses when he's unworthy. It's what he uses when he's young Thor before he becomes worthy initially.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm a little bit okay with it since Jason Aaron is writing this retcon as well.
Like it's his own retcon, right?
Not exactly. I mean, that axe was used, I believe, as far back as the early 80s when he was young,
Okay.
but it was very prominent in his run.
Gotcha.
I don't know if you knew basically Jason Aaron's run, especially the first 25 issues, are broken up between like stories about young Thor, Thor in now time, and then Thor in the far, far, far future.
Right.
And every single one about young Thor, like teenage Thor, is him with the axe.
I gotcha.
So I don't know. I just it seems irrelevant to me, but maybe next issue we'll see why.
I think it'll have weight in the next Valkyries series that we're gonna get. I mean, I think it'll have some kind of weight in the King in Black tie-in, but I think the next Valkyries book that he's writing, the 6-parter or whatever it is, I think will have relevancy because she's in that book. So I think we're gonna get in those books. I think we're gonna get more Moonstar, more Valkyrie, more of whoever that person is. But anyway, so I think the coolest part for me is that Dani, when they get to the limbo reality, she gets her Valkyrie powers back. So that's cool. And so she's going to head the charge into the void. I would assume Valkyrie will wait for her. So it's kind of like Jane Foster's kind of been put on the sideline in this book. And we're just getting like more Valkyrie stories, like genuine Valkyries rather than just Jane Foster. The craziest part about this book is I think the what's the name of the character again?
Hildegard.
Hildegard. I liked her story a lot, just because she just comes off as such a hard ass, and then she ends up holding the line. She ends up fighting Storm as a nullified Storm, and then she is able to grab the all weapon during the thread and essentially capture Null. And then she, at the end of the book, she gets consumed by symbiote goo. So she does her job, and I thought that was done really well. I don't know. I mean, I see what you're saying about the frustration about the axe, but overall, I still think Jason Aaron still feels very much more comfortable in this book. Like, I feel like his voice is much more prominent in this storyline than, like, let's say the Avengers.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. It's a very minor complaint. I'm not like hung up.
No. But it's just very evident that he feels comfortable in the Asgardian storytelling than a very rushed Avenger run. And we're about to get in May we're about to get the Heroes on Heroes Reborn, where it's all about the Squadron Supreme. Mm-hmm. And we'll see how that goes. But I just think his voice seems very prominent here than in other storylines. And I don't know if that's, because he's just got so much to write, or if he just feels more comfortable writing Asgardian stories. But overall, I liked this issue. I'm digging the story overall.
Yeah. It was an okay for me.
There you go. All right, next up we've got Symbiote Spider-Man number 4. This is just a fun book. Like, I don't put any weight in this book, and I know maybe towards the end of the the last issue there might be some prominent weight in the story. Mm-hmm. But as of right now with this issue, it's just fun. I think again, Peter David, we still think he's tasked to try to get as many characters in this book as possible, and it shows in this issue. We get basically everybody fighting Mystery in this book, trying to get the sword, the ebony blade from him, and they have at it, and there's plenty of action in the story. You've got Spidey symbiote fighting him, you've got the trolls fighting each other, you've got the Cosmodog, I believe his name is.
Cosmo.
Cosmo's in it, and he's a badass, shooting psychic blasts from his helmet. Mm-hmm. And basically halfway through the issue, Mystery loses. They're able to take the blade away from him, and I think at one point Rambo uses her energy blast to subdue him, and then Kang transports him to the Collector. So we get another character in the book.
Just thrown in there slightly.
Yeah. and then we get more family drama between these two trolls, and I think that's like basically the later half of the book is the trolls duking it out and them talking about why they hate each other so much, and then finally somebody at the end of the issue is like, who sent you to get the blade? Like, who sent you to do this? And one of the troll, what's the name of the troll? The guy on the cover,
Ulik.
Ulik finally goes, no, I was sent. And they're like, by who? And at the end of the issue, again, packing this book with as many characters as possible, we get the Watcher saying, no, I sent him because we need to figure out a way to destroy Null. So we get a Null drop. I don't know if this is the first time we get a Null name drop in this issue, but
I don't know.
It may be. I'm not quite sure. But either way, the implication is, again, this is happening prior to the King in Black event. This is happening prior to Eddie Brock's Venom run, or Donny Cates' Venom run. So this is happening pretty deep. I wouldn't say massively deep in the history or the past of Marvel, but it's happening deep enough that Eddie doesn't even have the symbiote yet. And the fact that the Watcher is that involved in trying to figure out a way to kill Null, I think is pretty intense. And I'd like to see, I'd be very interested to see if the Watcher shows up in Donny Cates' actual book, towards the end or not.
Well, what book was it? The Fantastic Four Fallout issue from the end of Empire sets that up perfectly. Don't you remember? He comes fucking bursting out of Nick Fury's face and is essentially reborn again. So he's definitely there. So I think that'd be really cool if he did show up.
And he's also there because they're trying to figure out those ancient weapons in Empire, right?
Yes.
So
the weapons that the Kotati got a hold of.
Right. So overall, again, this symbiote spider run, the first one and the second one, or the first one at least, I really enjoyed, and I felt like it had more. I don't want to say consequence, but it just felt like it had a deeper story. And then this one is just like, for me, and not in a bad way, it feels like shits and giggles. Like let's just have fun.
Yeah, in the best way possible. And if you can't tell just by the people that are on the cover alone, but like if you're a Cosmic fan, like I really do think Peter David is like giving like a head tilt towards Cosmic fans, because I never in a million years would I have imagined a 5-issue miniseries of a King in Black tie-in that features Spider-Man to be involved with some of the most cosmic characters and places. Like, I seriously probably would have taken like $100 bet that Cosmo would never show up in a Spider-Man book ever. No. And the fact that he did, I think is just really cool.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, just looking at the cover, I didn't even realize that Rambo is on the cover too. I just saw that. So again, overall, really enjoying this tie-in. It's not the best tie-in, but it's just, again, it's just for fun. Like, it's all just for fun on this one, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm having a good time.
All right, next up is a pretty heavy book. I needed you to break it down for me because, unfortunately, let me just say this: the next book is X-Men number 18, Hickman's X-Men. It's been a long time coming. We have been waiting for, I believe, 13 issues to get to this point. So in issue number 5, Wolverine, Synch, right? Or Synch and Darwin were tasked to go into the vault to see what the children of the vault were up to, right? And that happened 2 years ago, something like that. It was a long time ago. So we're finally figuring out what's going on in there. Now, disclaimer, I read this book a day before I got my second coronavirus shot. So yesterday I was totally foggy. Or no, I read it on the day I got it, and I started getting foggy. So when I was talking to you about it over text, you were like explaining things that I totally missed, like just went right over my head. So I had to reread it, and damn, dude, this is a very heavy issue. Yeah, a lot of things we find out a lot of things, and we find out a lot of things in data pages, which I know Hickman loves to do, is to like put little snippets of things here and there within the data pages, and something pretty significant in here. So let's just get into what they do in the vault. So they get into the vault. There's this giant city, which is, you know, it seems to be populated, but it's really not. It's not densely populated like they think it is. And it's being run by, I don't want to say a central intelligence style figure that, you know, I watched Comic Book Herald's video, and apparently there are some connections between this, you know, hive mind, robotic mind controlling the city, and it has parallels to Hickman's Ultimate Run, apparently.
Yeah.
Big, heavy implication there. And so essentially what they find is the children are being, I wouldn't say manipulated, but they're being corralled by this intelligence. What is it? Do you know what it's called?
I don't.
Either way, it's keeping the population of the children low, to conserve energy, essentially, because I think it knows that they're not up to the task of defeating the mutants currently, with the state in which the mutants are at. And so, you know, Wolverine, Darwin, and Synth are basically looking around, and they find the children of the vault. They kind of go at it. You know, they don't kind of go at it. They do go at it.
Yeah,
and
I actually was like kind of surprised at how hard they go, how quickly and how hard they go against the children. Like really quickly, just like you're dead. Like we're fighting, you're dead. Like,
well, I think the other thing that kind of threw me for a loop was the one of the children that they were following in. So in issue 5, they were like chasing one of these children of the vault that hadn't necessarily awakened yet, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she went in there, she was fully evolved, or whatever they call it. And so yeah, like you said, like when they go at it hard, and they literally cut her in half. Like they just kill her. And
yeah.
I was surprised that they didn't get a directive like, hey, try to bring her back. Like there was no like reconnaissance to bring them back. And later on in the issue, after we get all this killing, or wait, hold on. Let me I'm going too fast.
Ooh.
So they go at it hard, right? And at one point, one of the beings, or one of the children of the children of the vault, is like basically Ghost Rider. Like he's on fire. He's got a skull. He shoots flames, and he hits Synth, right, with the flames. Yep. And Synth gets burned really bad, and Wolverine's kind of like,
only catches on fire.
Yeah, like he's not looking good. And Wolverine's like, hey, grab my shoulder, absorb some of my healing power, and then we can continue to fight. And something inside of him is like, nah. And he touches the guy that burned him, and he absorbs his energy to the point where he's able to, because that's his power, is he absorbs any mutant's power and adapts it and uses it. Well, he starts absorbing this Children of the Vault's power, but the problem is they're human. They're just like, they've been genetically modified to be kind of like pseudo-mutants. So technically he shouldn't be able to do that, right?
Right.
And so he's able to consume that guy's power and use it against them. And even Wolverine's like, you shouldn't be able to do that. And he goes, well, guess I know how to do it now.
Yeah, he's like, I did it, so I don't know what to tell you.
And so in a previous data page, we get a resurrection protocol like doctor's note. And in that doctor's note, they come to find that some mutants that are being resurrected or their mutant powers have become stronger in very minute and small part, like small little, I don't want to say details, but like slightly stronger. And they don't know what that means, right? So we see Synth get his powers back and some to the point where that's a drastic change. That's not like a little change. That's a pretty damn big change. And so the implications of that is that people that are resurrected come back stronger, or they gain new powers. Now that's huge. That's a big, like, that's obviously Hickman being like, get ready, I'm sprinkling something here.
Yeah, to me it's so big that I almost wonder if this wasn't supposed to be issue 6, that happens directly after the last issue, and then that maybe as a team or even just Hickman himself collectively decided, maybe this is something I want to hold on to for a while. Maybe we don't want to go there yet. Because I mean, the implications of this are like anyone that's ever been resurrected could have a latent power that they don't know about yet. Sync wouldn't have known until he got into a battle. Or any newly resurrected characters across any X book. It seems like that writer can now just start infusing them with whatever kind of crazy powers they can come up with.
Well, and I think we've been given this theme, and we'll get into it in New Mutants, of like power combos, and even in the original House and Powers books, they were when we were talking about the previous 9 lives, there were mutants that were giving directives to the 5. Give me this power, or combine X, Y, and Z to make me better. So like we know it's coming, but we just I think Hickman. I agree with you. I think this would have been issue 6, but then they're like, well, we got Ten of Swords coming down the line. Let's wait. But we've known this is coming. Like there's gonna be, I think there are gonna be multiple ways of our mutants evolving, whether it's in Resurrection Protocol with this whole snafu, or with mutants actively saying, I'm gonna die now, I want to be Magneto, Polaris, and Wolverine in one. Or whatever. And I think again, I'm waiting for the day that Rasputin from Powers comes back and just.
You've been waiting on that forever,
dude, because she's so cool, dude.
She's
got magic sword, she's got Colossus's metal skin, and I think she has psychic powers too. So like it's just fucking cool. I think it is, and the day it happens, I'm gonna be like, got it. Either way, so we cut back to Sync using these flame powers. He ends up killing 2, like literally vaporizing 2 other children of the Vault, and I guess one of the the last remaining ones has the ability to basically blow herself up. And that's what she does. She gets super fucking pissed, and she blows up. It looks like she blows up the entire city. Like she goes off like an A-bomb and kills everybody. And so in the book, it's kind of implied, like, at the end of it, it says, I'm telling you the truth, man. We did our best. On day 1, we entered the vault. You have no idea what it took to get us out. So, like, do they get resurrected? Do we get another team that goes in and tries to make sure that they're dead so that they can resurrect them? Pretty crazy shit.
It is.
And then the book ends with basically, it sounds like it's Charles saying that the kill no humans rule does not apply to Children of the Vault.
Yep.
Essentially because they're such a threat.
Well, and this is a theme all the way back from Hoxpox. It's basically the main enemies of mutants are advanced AI and post-human intelligence. You see that with I think it's, what is it, her 9th life, one of her last lives, where it's just her and Wolverine in the like way far future. And yeah, so that's one of their main enemies, of mutantdom. So it makes sense that rule would no longer apply to them, because they're not humans anymore.
I will say I agree with Comic Book Herald's assessment of this. Is like, I feel like Hickman's run is taking a lot longer. I mean, we get 1 book a month. Not that we don't get 1 book a month with everything else, but it does feel like Hickman's pacing of his books are just kind of sludgy. And I don't know. I don't know if I feel good or bad about that, because outside of the pace, I feel like his books deliver 99.9% of the time. I'm like, that was a really good book. I want more. Shit, gotta wait a month. I don't know. I guess I'm waiting for another House and Powers event, like a release like that. because they were just so damn good. And like Hickman's, it's just like, and we get another tiny little chapter and a tiny little chapter, and I want more.
Yeah. I think Comic Book Herald suggested that really we need to have a second Hickman book, which, I mean, I would totally be down for, but I just, the line is getting so saturated as it is that
I was gonna say, are you sure about that? Because we're about to have like, what is it?
2 more added.
So 10 books, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think something's going to have to give eventually, but I would give up Marauders or Children of the Atom. Just,
Yeah, you even started.
Exactly. Don't just, I would rather have another Hickman book than some of these other books. And not to say that these other books are bad, I think Hickman's would be better.
I agree with that. I just I can't say it. I guess the only book right now to be proven to say I don't want it anymore, and that's been proven, is Fallen Angels. So,
oh yeah.
Either way, that's X-Men 18. Really enjoyed it, and also this cover is fucking fire.
Yeah, it's a good cover.
All right, on to a not so stellar Wolverine issue.
Is I.
It's I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted it to, and I feel like Maverick really just kind of got thrown in here to just fill in some time. Like, I almost wish they had just gotten over with the vampire arc that's about to start, and so that we could just get into a different story. Essentially, this is wrapping up Wolverine, or AKA Patch, saving Maverick from the auction house and them just wrecking shop in Madripoor, right? Because I think it's in Madripoor. Everything's in Madripoor.
Yes, everything is in Madripoor.
Everything shitty is in Madripoor. So it's Wolverine trying to convince Maverick that he needs to wake up, needs to remember who he is, and throughout the issue, that's what he does. And they in that process, they're killing a bunch of people. And I think the one crazy thing about this book is that there's an agent there that ends up taking Wolverine's hand, his severed hand that was up for auction, which is kind of interesting. So they work their way through it. They get out of the auction house, and Maverick, this is where the book kind of disconnected for me. Suddenly Maverick remembers who he is, and he's got this whole operation, and it just felt very it felt very disconnected when they got to that point in this book. Like, hey, I don't remember who I am. Oh, by the way, I've got this whole mercenary thing set up, and you should join us. Wolverine, you should join it. And I'm like, what is going on in this book? Like, it just felt very disconnected. Yeah,
it did. The one thing though that I think kept this book going for me was the art. Like Adam Kubert's art is always really good, and this issue in particular, I would say, is better than the average Wolverine book. I feel like it the paneling was just really, really good for the storytelling. It just matched really well.
Yeah.
Him and Benjamin Percy, I think, work really well together as a cooperative team.
No doubt. Yeah. So towards the later half of the book, Wolverine kind of joins Maverick's little bounty hunter group to take on a group of people that have essentially, they have a shit ton of superhero artifacts, including X-Force artifacts, and I mean, I think I saw an Iron Man suit in there and like all kinds of random shit. And they end up destroying it because no one should have those things. And through that series of events, Wolverine is trying to convince Maverick to come to Krakoa. And we also find out that Maverick no longer has his no longer has his mutant powers. He has been one of the victims of I believe the House of M
decimation.
Yeah, so he doesn't have his mutant powers. And he basically tells Wolverine, like, listen, Krakoa is great. You're a lemming, and I don't do that shit. When someone tells me to jump off a cliff, I don't do it. So I'm not going to Krakoa. If you ever want to join me again, hit me up. And so he leaves Krakoa, and in doing this, he ends up meeting back up with that agent that ended up grabbing Wolverine's hand. and it's looking like Maverick's about to turn on the mutants. It looks like he's gonna become a hired gun to go against the mutants. So we've got some potential mutant on mutant action going on here in this book. I guess to me that's the only real saving grace for me for the book outside of the art is that Maverick is now going to be a potential villain.
Yeah.
Later on. So, it was okay.
It was okay. I
It was
agree.
alright. All right, let's talk about a book that's got a shit ton of things going on in it.
Gosh, yeah.
When we talked about this book previous to the show starting, you were like, I thought this was an oversized issue. No, it's a standard issue. Ayala is just packing it in with stuff. She is going crazy with this book. Ton of different stories going on. We've got our original group of mutants still training our new mutants, how to combine powers, yada, yada, yada. The book basically opens with 3 young mutants playing Truth or Dare.
Right.
And the dare is that they need to go into Outworld and take a picture on Jamie's throne. And they end up being somewhat successful, but then they get caught by Jamie, and Jamie looks like a straight up devil when he catches them. And he takes one of them and tells the other 2 to run, essentially. And then, so that's one story. The other story is our other, I think, 4 or 5 new mutants that are under the guiding wing of, what's his name? It's brain fart.
Shadow King.
Shadow King. Shadow King is now kind of under their tutelage, and he's doing the same thing. He's tapping into their powers, and I guess you could say he's combining. Like, we're getting into this theme again of combining powers, where he's taking his power and enhancing their powers. So mainly I think he's interested in, I forget her name, but it's the mutant that looks all deformed.
Cosmar?
Yeah, I think that's his ultimate play, is to try to get something with her, because she's just so damn powerful. And he ends up, infusing his powers with theirs, and they're like their powers have become like more modified and more powerful. But in doing so, also it's very painful. And at first they're like, "This is great," and then it's not so great.
Well, they all swap bodies.
Oh, is that what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see, I again.
Yeah, they literally all swap bodies. So, like, No Girl, that's why the green reptilian dude, he's like, body, I have a body. That's because No Girl, the like robot floating thing, is in the body, and yeah, they completely swap consciousness for a second, and then all go back, and then that's when, what's her name, the little Wolverine, is like, yo, what the fuck was that shit? Like, don't be doing that.
So I guess we can kind of see where that's going at. I would assume that Shadow King is getting ready to jump bodies at some point. At least that's the presumption, I would assume. So that continues on, and then we've got our mutants, teaching other mutants how to combine powers. And then we get our original 2 younger mutants finding Danny Moonstar, and I don't know who that other one is, with the robotic leg.
Oh, that's shoot, cannot remember her name. She's one of the very original New Mutants.
Either way, they're both approached by the mutants that were playing Truth or Dare, and they're like, "Hey, we lost our friend in Outworld, and we know we shouldn't have gone there because you can really die there and not come back."
It's Karma.
Karma, gotcha. And so they're like, "All right, well, I guess we'll go help you find those." So that's another story. And then the other story is Wolfsbane trying to get her son resurrected through the Resurrection Protocol.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of red tape going on for her, and she's really pissed about it, and I think rightfully so. So her child is half mutant, half like Asgardian, and so there's just a little bit of red tape that is just going to be hard to deal with, because they don't know if they can technically resurrect an Asgardian god.
Well, they're saying that he's still alive.
Oh yeah, okay.
They're saying that, like, he's basically Cerebro is still collecting active data on him. So like, sorry, but every piece of evidence, we don't know where he is, but he is alive. So he's not gonna. We can't resurrect someone that's not dead. And so that's when she's like, that's why she like runs away from him, because she's like, well, shit.
Right. So she goes off to
You know
find,
what I do.
yeah, trying to find Danny to see if she can help her. Excuse me, find him. Then we cut back to Danny and the other mutant to essentially go into Outworld to find this missing mutant, and they confront Jamie about it, and Jamie's kind of being an ass about it, which is typical. And at some point, he's like, "Here, I'll give you gifts to find him." And so they go on their mission to find this this lost kid mutant, and the implications on this. I mean, they're literally on a death march, because if they die, they're screwed. Like, if they die in Outworld, which we know from Ten of Swords, they won't be the same person that they are. And so they end up getting captured by, I don't know who that is. I don't know if that's Merlin or...
It is, yeah.
Yeah, Merlin captures them and is like, "You've trespassed. I don't want to hear it." And so, they're stuck in Outworld now too. And then we cut back to Wolfbane trying to find Danny, and Danny's left her a letter, and she feels completely cut off and alone. So there's a lot going on in this book. The artwork of it is fantastic. I will say that.
Oh my gosh. I think, yeah, it's my favorite artwork of any of the X books, for sure.
And the coloring is really good too. Like, the artwork and the coloring in this book is just great. But
that's all Rod Rice. He does both of them.
Damn, dude, that's insane. It's a good issue, but it's just I have the same, I won't say complaint, but same criticism as the last issue. There's just so much going on in here that I feel like I can't keep up.
See, this is, it'll never happen, but I would rather have a bi-weekly New Mutants book from Vita Ayala than have them do New Mutants and then Children of the Atom. I'm sure Children of the Atom is going to be great, only because they're writing it is the only reason why I'm even picking it up. But I see what they're doing here, and I would just rather have 2 issues per month of this than silly old Children of the Atom.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, we're out of our X books, kind of, and we get into Marvel Voices Legacy #1, celebrating the Black History Month with a star-studded lineup. This was fun. This isn't another one of those books that just like you get little snippets of characters that you didn't really know about, and also you get black writers writing these these stories, and black artists writing or drawing these stories as well. And I really enjoyed it. I thought, there's a lot of like as expected stories in here, of just like finding confidence in your differences, and also there's a lot of real like life situations in this book. Like, one of the stories deals with Nigeria and their police forcing right now, and how they're suppressing just human rights.
Right.
And it's prominent in one of the stories, and I think that's a great... I know a lot of people don't like that. I know the comic geek community hates that shit, where you start getting real life situations in your comic books, and you're like, just leave it alone. I want it. No, this is a perfect application for that, because not everyone watches the news, and not everyone consumes. They've got to be. I feel like you need to be exposed to these things in all forms of media, and I think this is a perfect form to do it in as well. And if that's not your jam, go listen to something else.
Well, and this argument's been brought up many times, but it's very cut and dry. Comics at their very core are political, and it's actually unquestionably not even up for debate. I mean, one of the most popular comics we have of all time, right, is Captain America punching Hitler in the face. That book was released before we were even in the war. So if that's not a political statement in a comic book, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
And so I think that, sometimes some of these stories are overt, and sometimes the stories are not, I wouldn't say hidden, but just like seamlessly interwoven. And I think it's great that we have a book that just says, like, literally, this is a book by Black authors and Black talent, and that is good.
Yeah.
And it actually, like, regardless of whether, some of these stories didn't really even have, had this, a lot of them had to do with Black identity, and some of them didn't. They were all good.
Yeah, like the Domino story, for instance, like
Mm-hmm.
that shit was heartstrings, like at first it just started off like pure action, and then you realize what she's doing and you're like, oh, like
Yeah.
that's rough, right? And I don't want to spoil it because I encourage anybody and everybody that's picking up comics to go pick this up today, tomorrow, whenever you're at the shop, ask if they've got a copy of this. It's worth the read, because there's multiple stories in here, and then the last story in here is a story. I think is it a preview for the Def Jam stuff that's in Black Panther, or was it just something that was put at the end of the book?
So it is one of the 3 Def Jam highlights. So it says a 3-month short story special celebrating the voices of 3 rising Def Jam artists. So the first 2 that are released are in this book and the Black Panther book.
Okay, well, that's the Storm story in this book is really good too, and reading it also it reminds me of like what X-Men is like.
Yep.
If you don't realize what the X-Men story is at its root, then you really aren't understanding the material you were reading. Like, yes, it's great that there is a guy that can manipulate metal and take all the bullets out of your gun and then reverse it. That's great. Or there's a guy that can shoot ice out of his hands. Or there's a guy that's got wings. Or there's a lady that can read your mind. Yes, that's great. But deep down, it's about minorities being oppressed. And if you don't get that, I'm sorry.
And then there's no one that doesn't get it. If you pretend like you don't get that, you're being ignorant on purpose.
For sure.
So I think that honestly, like, all the stories were good, but I think the Domino story, for its intense reversal, I was reading it and I was like, man, this is badass. Like, this is just like a fun kick-ass story, and then you turn the page and you're like, oh yeah, damn it. And then the Storm issue is just it's at one point an everyman X-Men story, and in another way, I think it's really important that that this story was told with Storm, but also like right now. Like, I think it's fun that it fits with the message that Hickman is doing with Krakoa. Like, it fits into a modern X-Men plotline.
Yeah, for sure. And the Storm story was my favorite. Like, all the stories were really good, but to me, Storm's story was probably the best. Like, it had everything. Like you said, it's got continuity with the current X-Men story, and it told a classic X-Men story at the same time. And then it touched, it hit home with what we're currently dealing with right now in our society. So again, if you have not picked up this book, or you were hesitant to pick up this book, I highly encourage it. It's just it's everything that comics are and should be.
Yep. And for the record, I think that the Miss Marvel, Shuri, Riri story was my favorite.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool too. Yeah. All right, next up we got Marvel Snapshots, Captain Marvel. I originally wasn't going to pick up this book, but again, it's really hard for me to say no to a Alex Ross cover.
Yeah, it's a great cover.
This is an awesome cover. And we get into this, getting to the meat of what comics are. And we deal with, instead of, in the previous issue we were dealing with more, no, it's the same thing. We're dealing with social issues, and in this book we deal with identity, and I think the identity issue is the core of all of our comic books that we read, especially superhero books, and so we really get into it in this book. And I don't know if I want to spoil this one either. That being said, we'll get into a little bit of it. Like, we're dealing with identity more into the like sexual identity, being gay or being transgender. It hits really home with this, and there's a lot of detail in this book of, if you've never been able to relate to somebody that's transgender, I think this book can kind of open your eyes a little bit of how arrogant some people can be towards someone that's transgender. If you're a girl who more identifies as being a male, and you've got a mother who is just, kind of more old fashioned, and, parents, I think it's not just an eye opener for somebody who's transgender, but I think it's an eye opener for parents. I think a parent could pick up this book and see like how crazy you may sound to your, potential or your current transgender child. And really, like, if you read it, go like, holy shit, is that how I sound? I think you can get that in this book. And so, we get a Captain Marvel story a little bit in this book. We get a little bit of a Miss Marvel story in this book. And we get a transgender story in this book. And I enjoyed it to the point where, like, I don't know how to say this right. It was very eye-opening because we don't get this subject matter a lot in our comics, especially in our Marvel comics.
Yeah, see, to me, this book, and I think that the power of this book, and it's to me, it almost seems silly because I think in a lot of ways, my initial hesitation at this book was that it was just going to be a throwaway story about Captain Marvel. And the fact that it was so different than that really kind of threw me for a loop. I actually read it twice just because I was like, did I miss something? Or honestly, like, this story isn't really about Captain Marvel Carol Danvers so much as this is about like what the moniker Captain Marvel stands for. Like, what does it mean to be a hero? But also, I think there are so many different ways you can come at this book. You've already mentioned, viewing this like a parent and kind of having a little bit of an eye-opening experience. And when I read it the first time, I was like, man, this is a quintessential modern teenage story if there ever is one. Like, even when we were kids, even when we were like 13, 14, 15 years old, it just wasn't cool to like stand up for anything regardless. Like, it just wasn't cool to be political. It wasn't cool to, stand up for people at all. That just wasn't a thing. And now it's not that it's necessarily the cool thing, but I think teenagers are finally starting to find an identity in equality. I
think you're absolutely right. And I think it's also, for us when we were growing up, like you said, it wasn't the cool thing. It was also not the expected thing. It was like, shut up, put your head down, do your work, go to school, whatever. And I think, I'm going to cut back to something else that I watched previously on a TikTok. There's this one going around of two guys that I watch on YouTube called Rhett and Link. They have a show called Good Mythical Morning, and they have a podcast called Ear Biscuits, and real crazy shit. But sometimes they get into some really deep stuff. So they're originally from North Carolina. They've got a very hard Southern twang. They grew up very traditional. Now they live in LA. I mean, they are as far as they can be from their original roots. And somebody brought up a question about youth in the church. And you never thought we would talk about this on this podcast. But Rhett essentially said, a lot of parents within the church are dealing with this idea of youth leaving the church. And they're trying to figure out a way to keep the youth in the church. And Rhett said, probably the reason why they're leaving the church is because they see that the fundamental teachings of being a good person or Jesus are not being taught in church, right? So the youth themselves are taking it upon themselves to leave and do the right thing and get away from the money-making machine. And I think in this book, you can kind of apply that same thing. You've got youth in this book who sees something wrong within society, whether it's Black Lives Matter, transgender, equal rights, whatever you want to say, and they go, we need to fight for that. And so that's what happens in this book. And the adults in the book are like, what the hell are you doing? Stay in your lane. Just do your work. Keep your head down. And that's essentially what's happening in this book too. And I think it's a nice social commentary to say, like, no, you can be an individual, you can fight for the right thing, and you can bring it up to your superiors and say, like, this is wrong, we need to fix it. And that's what this book is. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, obviously we liked this book.
No,
we had some thoughts about it.
No, I enjoyed it, and I think it again, if you have some extra, a couple extra bucks, a couple extra $5, go pick it up. It's really good. I will say, I've said this before, Nate, you need to read the Captain America Marvel Snapshots, because I think you would really enjoy it. It's kind of in the same lane, but it's more of how do the superheroes, how do they miss the mark, and how do they, it's really good. You need to check it out.
I'll have to see if Ron has a copy still somewhere.
For sure. If not, you can borrow mine. All right, back to crazy comics. We got Captain Marvel 26. This is my pick of the week.
Oh.
I wasn't expecting it, but it was really good. So this ends the Brave New World arc, and unlike Nick Spencer, it ends properly and without question. Tells you how I'm going to talk about our Spider-Man book. But that being so, in last issue, Thor's future daughter powered up Carol Danvers to the point where she had the power of a star, and she was literally on fire. And she was fighting Avi, who is the son of Namor and the Enchantress. So he's got psychic abilities, and he can talk to fish. And
hell yeah,
his whole mission in this arc was to go back in time to Captain Danvers' present time to take over the world. And so he was told that he needed to bring Danvers to the future in order to consume her life energy to get to the past. And so we get an all-out battle in this book, and essentially what happens is he is successful due to his mother. His mother, who actually hates him, she bends the knee to him because that's her son, and she'll do anything for her son. So she ends up finding a way to actually get him to the past. So Danvers is essentially she fails her mission in stopping him. But the one thing that's crazy is when they lose, the group in the future is no longer being oppressed by this character. And one of the Jessica Drew of, I think that's the right Spider-Woman of that future, Danvers is pissed. She's like, oh, well, I may have just screwed us over. And she's like, well, we're still here. So like when he phased to the past, this future is still intact. So clearly you did something right. And, she's like, oh yeah, right. and so in that future, Rhodes has a daughter, and she becomes really acquainted with that daughter, but she realizes that in the present she's in a relationship with War Machine. And in this issue, she finds out that the daughter is not their child. So she realizes, like, if they're to continue to have the relationship, they may not have this daughter, right? So the only way she can get back to the present is to use some kind of life force, right? So when Avi was transported to our present, and then Enchantress used her own life force to get him there. So in order for Carol to get back, someone has to sacrifice their life, and she's not about it. So at one point, she's like, thanking everybody for, fighting. And Jessica Drew's like, hey, good job. I got to go somewhere. And she's like, all right, I'll talk to you later. Then, 5 minutes later, someone's like, quick, hurry, come to the basement. And she goes to the basement, and Jessica Drew sacrificed her life to get Carol back to the future. And she is pissed about it. Just, I didn't ask for this. And she's like, well, this is what she wanted. She knows that you need to go back to your present to save our future. And so, magic sends her back to her present. And what took her a week really happened in 1 second in our present. So at the beginning of this arc, she gets sucked up into a tree from this like shadowy tentacle thing. And so the group, when they saw that, she was normal Carol Danvers. 1 second later, she comes back out and she looks like a freaking star. And they're like, what the fuck? And she like destroys the entity. She lands. She gives Spider-Woman a giant hug. And she's like, don't ever leave me. And they finally like, resolve the issue. But she's like, we need to get ready to fight because there's this character, Avi, who was sent to our present that's going to take over the world. So that's clearly setting up the next arc. So Avi's not done, but this new future world is. And so we cut to Carol and Rhodes in their apartment, and she essentially breaks up with Manowar because she met his future daughter. And Manowar's pissed. He's like, I fucking love you, and you're just going to break up with me because of a potential future? And she goes, if you met her, you would break up with me too. Like, she's amazing. She's smart. She's everything you ever want in a daughter. And I have to end our relationship so she actually becomes a reality. And I was like, damn, that's intense. Like, you're going to give up a relationship that you're fully committed to. You're both in love because you met a future daughter. Like, well, what if you just keep on dating and then things don't work out and then she still exists? Like, Carol doesn't take that chance.
Yeah, you would think that these characters would learn by now that that's not how time jumping works in the Marvel universe. Like, they know that that's not how it works.
No.
The future that she saw can't possibly ever be her future.
I don't know. Either way,
like you can't travel to your own future in Marvel. They talked about it. It's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Either way, she broke the dude's heart, and I was like, "Damn, you do him dirty, girl." But it was a cool issue. The artwork was great. I think this is at the end of the issue. It's said that Gerbit, it's his last issue, so they're getting a new artist in the next issue. But dude, it was really good. It was a solid book, and this arc started with me going like, I don't know what the fuck is going on here, to like, damn, this is really good, becoming my pick of the week. So
yeah, when the first issue came out, I was like, ooh, I like this, and then I just kind of dropped off, and then you were like, I don't know, and then it ended up being your favorite. Yep.
So definitely get on it. If Ron doesn't have the issues, I'll let you borrow because this is really good.
Yeah, this will be a good trade to pick up too, because it was like 6 issues, so it'd be a nice little trade to pick up.
All right, I want to get through this really quick. Spider-Man 60. Okay. Shout out to Manny Reads Comics here on Twitch and Instagram. Go give him a follow. He basically summed up how I feel about this book. Nick Spencer does not know how to end an arc. He only knows how to start them. It's very true. So in this book, we get a therapy session with Mary Jane and Peter Parker, where Peter Parker acts out his emotions and his conversation that he would have with Harry Osborn, a.k.a. What's he called? I forget his name. Damn, Kindred. Just how forgettable it is. And so, like, more than half of this issue is him literally standing on a theater stage in a spotlight, having a conversation with a fake Kindred about how he feels and how he's let his, all of his caring people in his, in relationships down, and he's sorry. So there's that. And then in, I don't know, 7-8 issues ago, Doctor Strange was helping everybody try to get in through the astral plane to save Peter. Well, he's back. And he pops up, and he goes to Vegas, and he goes to talk to a certain demon about Peter Parker's soul. So now we find out that Mephisto is playing with Peter Parker's soul. Wait, what? What are we doing here? What the fuck is going on? That's Spider-Man 60 in a nutshell.
Oh boy.
I feel like Nick Spencer is only on this book for this long because there are people like me who are diehard Spider-Man fans who will continue to pick up the book because it's Spider-Man. And so they see that Spider-Man's selling really well, so they're like, keep Nick Spencer on the book. I don't want to stop picking it up, but fuck, just like, stop. Please stop. Like, it just doesn't. And I'm not saying I want action. You can have meaningful storytelling. Shit, look at our, Spotlight and Voices. You can have meaningful dialogue, but you can also have good timing and good just phrase. Like, it's not there. Like, and Manny talks about it in some of his reviews. He's like, Spider-Man, Nick Spencer knows how to start an arc. He doesn't know how to end it. And that's so goddamn true. Did you know that we're in the middle of a King's Ransom arc? No. Didn't know that. And now Mephisto's here. What? Like, I knew it immediately when Doctor Strange went to Vegas and the bubbles, the dialogue boxes from Mephisto popped up. I was like, that's Mephisto. And literally it's a good hook, but I'm like, where did that hook come from? And it's like, Strange is literally like, what's wrong with Peter Parker's soul? And it's just Mephisto going like, wouldn't you like to know? Like, that's how this book ends. And I'm just kind of like, wait, weren't we just dealing, like, what happened to Kindred? Wait, what happened to Sin Eater? Wasn't
this supposed to be a Wilson Fisk arc?
Exactly. Like, he's not even in this issue, dude. I don't know. And I don't like the artwork too. Sorry, I don't. I'm sorry, Bagley. I'm sorry. I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm gonna keep picking it up. God damn it! But just Marvel.
Stronger than me. I would be out.
Marvel, please.
Don't do this to him anymore.
Put Danny Cates on Spider-Man. Please.
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
All right, Superman, House of L. Our only DC book this week. Did you read this?
I didn't. I was not able to pick this one out.
Okay. Well, I'll be quick on this one. It's cool. Don't know what the hell's going on, but it's cool. Essentially, you have descendants of L or Cal. Every from like great grandchildren to step grandchildren. So like that's why you see and I could be wrong on this because again I don't know exactly what's going on. But essentially you have the Earth has now become the House of L, descendants from the original Superman, and they're fighting this war against this king in red, the Red King. And so they have a coalition of humans, Kryptonians, and other beings throughout the universe going against the Red King, who has his own legion of people. He's got an army of doomsdays. He's got androids. He's got all kinds of shit. And so basically they fight. I'm going to really wrap this up quick. They end up coming to a head in a battle, and it looks like they're going to lose. And the king of the Red King ends up being another descendant of Superman, and it's actually his grandson who is like conquering the universe. And they're like, you fucking asshole, you're supposed to be one of us. And he's like, I will conquer everything. And to that point of the book I was like, dude, this is heavy, this is really good. And then it looks like the House of L is about to fall to the Red King. Superman shows up, and he's sitting in the middle of the cover, and he's like, he basically bitch slaps the the Red King, and is like, this is not who I wanted you to be. you were a failed magic science experiment. Ooh. And I'm going to train you to be the man you're supposed to be. And at this point in the book, it's like, wait, you're fighting a war. You just killed a bunch of people. Everybody on the House of L side is like, oh, you're here. Oh, okay. And so literally the book ends with Superman taking the Red King into a distant future. And the House of L's like, okay, I guess we'll rebuild. And I don't put that rushed ending on John Philip Kennedy, or right? Philip
Johnson Kennedy.
Philip
Johnson.
Yeah. I don't put it on him. because I know the Future State was heavily rushed by DC. And I think if this book was able to like actually flesh out over 3 books or even 4, I think this would have had much more impact. The beginning of the book was strong, the middle of the book was really cool, and then the ending was just like, and we're done. Woo! And I'm kind of hoping that, because, Philip, what's his name again? I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher it.
Philip Kennedy Johnson.
So I'm hoping that Johnson will continue these storylines in his Superman book, but give us some history within the book, the Superman book that's coming out, so that like he can explain it a little bit better. Because I know he took a risk, and he even said that on Twitter. He's like, we took a huge risk on Superman War of the Worlds and Superman House of L. So I'm I enjoyed it, but damn did it feel rushed. So I'm hoping I would encourage you to read it, Nate, because I think it draws on a lot of his writing styles from like Your Last God book. But it was fun. It just felt really rushed at the end.
Yeah.
So
I got that.
crossover number 4, Donny Cates Goodness.
I feel like this book probably had more impact on you than it did me.
It did, but it didn't, because I still haven't read all of God Country.
Oh, okay.
So I'm still kind of in the dark. But essentially what we get in this book is Donny Cates continuing to take ideas that he's created in the independent comic book universe and just, I wouldn't say ram them down our throats, but he's going to heavily lean on stuff that he's worked on, and I fucking love it.
Yeah, I do too.
Essentially, the idea is to get our little comic book girl back to the dome to meet her parents, and then also get Ellipsis's parents saved from the dome, essentially.
Yeah.
And so that's what we get in this book. Our group in Madman, right? Frank, break into a crossover museum. And they're looking for a relic that came from the dome. And what we find out is that a majority of the relics within the dome, or within the museum, are actually fake. But there's one in particular that's real. And what I really liked about that, them going into the museum, is that there's little references that Donnie, or I guess you would say Shaw, has dropped in there. From like either DC or Marvel. So like the one that I saw that was kind of cool and prevalent was the nebulizer. Like there's literally a page where there's a giant nebulizer from the nullifier. I'm sorry. The ultimate nullifier, is that what it's called?
Oh, from FF?
Yeah, there's a
You missed it.
if you look in there's one where it's sitting in a case. But there's just little modified DC Marvel artifacts in the book, which I thought was kind of cool. But as they're trying to look for it, look for this now Nate's trying to find it.
Sorry, yes, I am.
Let's see, I'll try to find it. Let's see what page it's on. Either way, they're trying to find this artifact, and they realize that a lot of this shit's fake, and then they're confronted by some cops. And the cops are like, don't you fucking move. Y'all are comic book people. Like, you're under arrest. And before they can, talk themselves out of it, they draw their guns. Our little girl, who looks like a murderer, is getting ready to shoot her lasers at him. And Madman basically says, I got this. And he pulls out a yo-yo. And he beats the shit out of the cops with the yo-yo. And this is probably my favorite. Like, that's just cool. Just kicking some major ass.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me see if I can find it for you. Okay, so there was that page that spread, right?
Yeah.
Previous page, the first page to the left, right here. That's your nullifier.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't it look like it? If you put it up side by side, it definitely looks the same.
I'll have to do that. Well, that panel right next to it looks like a knockoff Doctor Doom. So
Doctor Doom. There's some. What's that comic book show that's on Amazon?
The Boys.
The Boys. So that, it looks like this character is that Captain America character in it. Either way, there's just a lot of reference you can see that he's pulling from.
Right.
So Frank, or Madman, ends up dispatching and killing, or not killing, but subduing the cops. And then we get another comic character who's been sitting in the museum waiting for him, and it's this old lady, and she's like, "Oh, I knew you were coming. The object was sensing that you were coming." And they're like, "Who are you?" And she goes, "My name is Deanna Quillen. You've probably read about my grandfather. His name is Emmett." And they open the door to the artifact, and it's the sword from God Country.
Yeah.
And again, I haven't read the whole thing, but that's a pretty big deal. And what I like about this issue is, like, that's how the story ends, right? But Donnie knows that not everybody's read God Country, so what does he do? He puts in, like, what is the Volfax? Like, what is the sword? And he kind of gives, like, a very abridged version of what this sword is.
Yeah.
And just a kind of a mini story behind it. So, and then, again, a definite plug of, like, hey, if you don't know what this is, you can buy this trade at your local comic book store. So, again, Donnie is doing a really good job of, like, selling his previous works in this book, and I think it's genius. And then we cut back, it cuts back into like a epilogue of what's going to happen, and we get the president basically saying, like, what the hell's going on? The artifact was stolen, and the agent's like, yeah, we're trying to do everything we can. He's like, activate our project, and it looks like the government is cutting up comic book characters and Frankensteining.
Yeah.
An ultimate weapon. So I was like, oh shit, it's about to get heavy. I think if I had read and finished God Country, this would have been my pick of the week. I just haven't. But overall, I had a lot of fun with it.
Wow, can't believe you haven't finished God Country. Oh my god.
I'm sorry, I've got like 15 other trades to read. Plus, I got to do YouTube videos. Hey, subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. But overall, it was good. I don't want to do justice and say, like, oh, it's my pick of the week because it was Donny Cates. No, I haven't read all the material yet. Now let me go read God Country, and I might go back and change the score. We'll see. All right, I'm gonna need you to take the lead on this one because fuck. Department of Truth, number 6.
Oh.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Wait, shit, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, just do this one, then we'll get to the other one.
Okay. Let me get this book out.
I messed up.
So first off, we don't have our normal artist on this book, and it thoroughly threw me off.
Mm-hmm.
I was not a fan. So basically, this is almost like Lee Harvey Oswald's origin into the Department of Truth. He basically gets walked down into some kind of like library basement or something, and the guy who's I think the only other member of the department at the time puts the Apocrypha in front of him in its original Latin, is like, figure this out, read this. And he's like, I don't read Latin. He's like, all right, there's a Latin dictionary right there, figure it out. And basically what he reads in this is a story of a monk who is seeking out an old woman who is thought to be a witch by the locals.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that she contains a terrible secret. And so a lot of this issue is told in very like passive aggressive, almost riddle like dialogue, where both the monk and the old woman are dancing around what they're trying to say, instead of just outright saying it. And so it's a little difficult to understand. But basically what is happening is the old woman is saying, now again, just in case, this would be considered quite a large spoiler for the book. So
Yep.
just that's what we do. We spoil, but
Hey, we're an hour and 25 minutes into the show. Just to let you know, spoilers ahead.
yes. Well, I think that we haven't massively spoiled other books, but this
No.
is like
This is gonna be
anyway. Basically, what it comes down to is the woman is accusing the church of literally changing time.
retcon.
Literally retconning time. She is saying that they have, through religion, convinced enough people that the date isn't actually the real date. That they have moved the date up. Is it 300 years or 500 years? Like
It's
a
300.
ton.
It's 300 because it's originally like 200,
Okay.
which still makes her like fucking old. But anyway,
It makes her 99 years old.
yeah.
And so like she's been, the reason why people think she's crazy and maybe a witch or something is because she tells people that she was born in the 400s and it's now the year 1000. And she's saying that basically the church has convinced enough people that it's the year 1000, even though it is the year 700. And it literally, because they've convinced enough people, it is now the year 1000. And they've rewritten time. They've essentially forced society into the future, I think is what's going on here.
Literally made up Charlemagne.
Yes, yeah. She says that Charlemagne is not real. That the Holy Roman Empire is manufactured. Until people started believing it so much, it's the same thing that we're seeing. If enough people believe it, then it does become true.
Yeah.
And so she's basically accusing the church of manipulating time. And ultimately, this monk isn't really a monk so much as he is an assassin for the church. And ultimately, he kills the woman.
I did like that when he kills him, or when he kills her, and she's like, "Hail Caesar!" I was like, "Damn!" Like that was cool.
Yeah. Oh, that was the other thing, is she claims to be a descendant of Caesar, and people say that's ridiculous because that was 400 years ago, and she's like, well, no, it was 99 years ago. I'm 99 years old, but everyone thinks she's 399 years old because of the time gap. And then, of course, the biggest thing that's going to lead us, I think, down our next arc of what other kind of crazy conspiracy theories Tinian's going to bring in is he keeps looking at this word for enlightened. What is it? What does it mean? And then he translates it, and it translates to Illuminati. So, of course, Tinian is bringing up the Illuminati.
I did like Norman's reaction, just like, oh shit. Like, I feel like as a reader, all of us were, even if we didn't like the art style, we were like, oh, that's where we're going. Like,
yeah, he literally says, it says the enlightened, and he goes, fuck me. It's the Illuminati.
I agree with you. I think the artwork, it's just because we've been in such a different style of artwork that this one kind of was like, wait, what?
The art isn't bad.
No.
And it fits the fact that we weren't in our modern story, that we were basically inside of Lee Harvey Oswald's head while he was reading the Apocrypha.
Yeah.
That being said, I prefer the book's artist.
I'll say I do too, but I think as I was reading this, it grew on me. Like by the end,
it did for sure.
By the last page, I was like, okay, I can get behind that. I'm not going to say it's my pick of the week, but I can get behind. Like after I read the entire story and got through it, I kind of read it a little like a second time. I was like, it's growing on me because, like you said, like you're in a different time zone. You're kind of getting an origin story for our Norman. So like I liked it. It just the initial reaction of the art, like I was like, ooh, here we go, and like I opened it and I was like, wait, am I reading orcs? Like, what's going on?
Well, and the other thing that I liked about this book is Tinian's his broad usage of not just overt and obvious modern conspiracy theories, but some that are maybe a little bit more subtle or almost ingrained into our culture. And some people, I think, will totally miss it, and it'll totally hit some people. But when I got to the page and it says the Apocrypha, like, it kind of hit me a little bit because I was raised in basically a Protestant church,
right.
And so the Apocrypha is like oh, that's the the part of the Bible that we don't talk about. That's not actually part of the Bible. That's a sinner's part of the Bible. And
whereas like in Catholicism, that's like
it's just part of it,
part of the Bible. Yeah,
like it's not a big deal. And so like I think it was really interesting that like there I don't give a shit now, but like there are people that would have seen the Apocrypha and like would have had that like twang of offensiveness, like they were offended by it. So
it's dirty.
I like that. I like that Tinian is a equal opportunity offender.
Also, I think what's cool, I like that. Also, what I like about it too is like this. Essentially, this is the first lie. We would assume that kind of started the Department of Truth. We assume, something else could come up later, like the Garden of Eden or whatever. But what I like about this one is it's not like the flat Earth one where it was like, and the Earth is flat. This one literally was just a retcon to history, which we can all relate to, right? Like we know, like me and you, as history students, as students of history within college, like we know that shit actually happens all the fucking time. We're living in it. Like we live in it now. Yep. If you were in school, in middle school, like, dude, take Texas history, for instance. Like, why the fuck in middle school do we take a class on Texas history? It makes no fucking sense. And so, this kind of shit is actually real. And I think Tinian is hitting a nerve for sure. And so, like you said, for some people, it's going to fly right over their head. And for others, they're going to be like, wow, this is really deep. I get why this book is becoming a show. You know what I mean? Outside of the obvious, I get it why it's becoming a show. But I enjoyed it. Artwork grew on me as I went. But it unfortunately is not my pick of the week, and I feel pretty bad about my weather statement in our comic book haul video. But hey, weathermen lie all the damn time. Hey, it's gonna rain, sun all day.
In a different multiverse, this was your pick of the week.
Sure. All right, next up, the book sorry, I just had the order wrong, is Something is Killing the Children, number 15.
All right.
Break it down.
This is my pick of the week.
Right.
I don't think that is surprising anyone that has been following along. This is probably the 5th or 6th or 7th time that this book has been a pick of the week.
Yep.
So in a lot of ways, this book is the end to what I really consider to be the first arc of this book. I know we're 15 issues in, and I believe technically this is the end of the 3rd named arc, but there's no real differences between those 3 arcs. Really, this is the first arc of Something is Killing the Children. We have Erica Slaughter arriving to this town, being introduced to James and his story about basically how he summoned these monsters. And in this issue, we finally get the resolution to everything that's been building up in the past 14 issues.
Gotcha.
I cannot remember the little girl's name. It is a difficult name. I think it's Bai, actually. So James and Bai basically are left in the house by Erica at the end of issue 15 for her to essentially go out and take care of monsters. She has decided that her and the monster that she keeps, kind of like locked away in that teddy bear that she carries, it's up to them to do this. That she's got to end it now, and that if she doesn't, the other members of the House of Slaughter that are there are going to, do something very bad. the implication at the end of issue 14 was that all of the adults that were basically hiding out in the school gymnasium were going to be murdered because they were witnessed to the monsters, and they couldn't have adults talking about monsters.
Whoa.
So that catches us up. This issue starts with Erica basically torn to shreds, but alive. She's got cuts all over. She's bleeding everywhere. She's, stumbling and hobbling back to the house, but she has successfully killed all of the monsters. And I just want to say before I forget, because it's just this first 4 or 5 pages, maybe the first, let's say third of the book, it is really, really dark. And I don't mean grim. It is grim, but I mean it's literally so dark. Yet it is some of the best. I think it might be the best art of this entire series. It's just so much shadow play and so much I was just reading this, and it's almost no text. I mean, literally, we've got 2 pages of panels, and we've got James says, "Are you okay?" And then 7 panels later, he says, "Is it over?" And it creeped the shit out of me. It was so creepy. The use of shadows, and I don't know, it was very good. So basically, she is taking care of monsters, and she calls in the Order of St. George and says, "Listen, monsters are done. Get everyone the hell out of here now. We're done." And that's exactly what happens. So Cecilia is the one that's in charge of the group that's over at the gymnasium. She gets a call that just says, "You're out, you're done, you go." And some of her men object to that because they, we're obviously seeing that there's more of a ruthless side to this house. The guy basically says "No, we need to kill these people. I want to kill these people."
Damn.
And she basically is "Yeah, I told you we're leaving." And then she's dares him to question her again in public, and he puts his head down and just walks away.
Oh, okay.
So shows you that this Cecilia character, who we really haven't seen too much, is obviously quite respected. Then we get a 1 week later panel, and what has happened? I don't. It's been a month, but in a desperate plea, Johnny, the brother of one of the girls that got killed, that was part of helping Erica. At one point, she gives him the ability to see the monsters. Last issue, he was saying, "Oh, I killed the kids. I'm the one that did all this. I killed the kids," in an attempt to get the Order of St. George members to go away. And so basically what they said is "All right, we're leaving. You remember what you said about confessing to all the murders? You're actually going to do that." Ooh. And she turns and looks at the sheriff and is "You're actually going to arrest him and charge him and prosecute him for this. This is all that's how this is going to end." Damn. And so he basically becomes the sacrificial lamb. And so we get a couple of pages of the people around the town listening to a news segment about how they've caught the killer. They caught Tommy, and they caught he killed all these people, and or all these kids, and he killed these kids in front of these people at the gymnasium. And then you get a panel of his mom standing by her daughter's grave, just crying while smoking a cigarette. And just damn, it was rough. She didn't just lose her daughter to this crazy shit, but now she's lost her son too. And then we go to Erica sitting at a bus stop, obviously about to leave the town now that the reason why she was there in the first place is over with. And an old man with a crazy mask. These people have such crazy masks, but his is it looks like a metal chain mask that fits around his face, and it makes him look like he has huge teeth and daggers. It's weird. He sits down next to her and is basically so what are you doing now? Where are you going? And she's "I'm not sure. I guess, somewhere else that needs me." And they basically get to talking just about what happened and how they could change, and what could have been happened differently. And he basically offers her like a job back full times where she doesn't have to go out in the field anymore and actually fight the monsters and stuff. And at one point he references someone that we don't know who it is that has died. And she's like, don't you dare speak about her. Don't you dare offer me this job, because it was her job, this person that had died. And she was like, fuck you, fuck the House of Slaughter. Like, she says, I renounce the House of Slaughter and I renounce the Order of St. George.
Whoa.
I'm going to keep doing what I do until it kills me and saving people, but I won't do it for you and I won't do it in your name. She's like, fucking kill me if you have to, but I'm not stopping. And she leaves. So she's essentially said, like, I'm out. I'm totally out. I've seen what y'all have done here. Fuck you guys. This isn't going to work anymore.
Fuck you guys. I'm going home.
And so she gets on a bus to go to the next town, and she's driving away for a minute, and she turns and looks next to her, and James is sitting there as well. And he's like, don't worry, I'm not following you. I'm just going to my mom's in Albuquerque. And then we get a little bit of a resolution here as well. I imagine this isn't the end of James. I imagine James is probably going to end up becoming like her sidekick in some ways, since he has experience somewhat. But we get a nice little moment where he's like, I just want to thank you. Like, I don't know if I ever could have lived without some kind of resolution to what I caused. And he cries and they hug, and it's a whole little moment. And then it ends with basically just the bus driving away. It says, you're now leaving Archer's Peak. So very good issue. The art in it was absolutely fantastic. Blow away creepy, but also like super sentimental. And yeah, I feel like it was like, again, it's 15 issues in, but I feel like it was one big story. You can call it 3 arcs if you want to, but I really just feel like this was the end of what I would call book 1 of Something is Killing the Children. And I'm super excited for the next issue, because apparently we're supposed to be getting the origin, like a full origin story for Erica Slaughter.
Man, I feel like this should be my pick of the week. Damn.
It was really good. It was really good.
That's awesome.
Probably the strongest issue that it's, besides issue 1, which set it all up. Definitely the strongest issue.
I need to read the trades. I got so many trades to read. All right. Next up is our last book of the night, and it was a surprise. Surprise! It's Stray Dogs #1.
Surprise! I hated it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I really did.
Well, damn it, dude. I was like, this was crazy. Did you hate it because it was like Disney dogs?
Partially, yeah.
Okay. Well, shit. I was like, man, I'm going to put this on YouTube. It's going to be great. I fucking hated it.
Here, no, start over again. I'll go for it.
No.
No, yeah, just do that's our next book, and then
Okay. All right, next up, we've got surprise Stray Dogs #1.
Yay, I hated it.
Okay, hold on. Okay,
we'll
so
all right.
No, I'm not gonna do it again. No. So Stray Dogs #1, I didn't hate it. I am intrigued, but I will say the artwork through, like, I messaged Ron. I was like, the character design and how this book is portrayed, it gave you a false sense of security. I will say that for sure. Like, so it's this dog who is taken to the vet, and she's given her Bordetella vaccination. She hates the fucking vet. There's a lot of these misconceptions that dogs don't feel things and they don't remember things, and it's clearly they do. And so this book is basically set up as like I feel bad for dogs, and they have feelings, and they are living, breathing, feeling beings. And so the first panel of the book is them at the vet, and she's hating it. And then the next panel, she's taken to this new house, and she doesn't know, she lost her memory. And she's taken to a house out in the country where there are a bunch of other rescue dogs. And she's like, they're like, don't worry, you're a new dog. And so we basically get the perspective of the dogs. They can talk. They're talking to each other. They're trying to acclimate this dog into her new home. But we were previously, like, she was with her owner. So, like, there's this big disconnect of, like, what happened. And so the dogs are, taking her through the house and showing her like, hey, this is where we sleep, and this is where we eat, this is where we poop, and this is where we play, and all this stuff. And it's really hard to explain, but I'd say a majority of the book, it feels like a Disney movie, because of the way it's drawn. And
I'd say it's written that way as well.
yeah, it is written the way that, and I think that's on purpose. And so they, these dogs are trying to welcome her in, and there's something off, and she can't figure it out. And so I'd say more than a third through the book, the owner shows up because she's not eating, she's not sleeping, she's not drinking water. And the owner, or not the owner, the rescuer is like, hey, come here, I've been trying to find you. Let's get you some, let's get you something to eat. And then he wraps her in this red scarf. And initially she's kind of like, oh, maybe this is not so bad. And then she smells the scarf and poof, there's a memory has been jolted back into her memory. And she sees an event. She was at home and her owner was opening the door to greet her. And her owner is strangled by somebody with that red scarf. And that's our first, like, what the fuck is going on in this book? I thought we were watching a Pixar movie. And she comes to terms with the fact that the person that rescued her actually murdered her owner and took the dog. And it's safe to assume that, I'd say there's about 20 dogs in this house.
About that.
Roughly. It's kind of looking like all these dogs are rescue dogs from victims that this dude has killed.
Yeah.
And so she, it's a real quick analysis of this book, but essentially they're going to try to find out there's like a murder mystery. Is their new owner actually a serial killer? And so that's how this book ends, is basically them trying, the other dogs, she says, this guy killed my owner. They don't believe her, but the main Maverick dog is like, no, I want to figure out if you're telling the truth or not, because something's not adding up. So that's how this book ends. So let me tell me why you don't like it.
So one of the things that kind of bothers me is I feel like this book kind of contradicts itself a little bit. We get that, like you were saying, we get that opening scene with the dog going to the vet and being very scared about getting the shot, and the vet says, "Don't worry, like that's not how dogs work. Like their short-term memory is not very good. Like she remembers things like commands and your voice and stuff, but she doesn't remember what happened to her last week." And like this felt like that was going to be kind of a rebuke on that, and which I liked, adding agency to dogs and like bucking some stereotypes that I think we pretty much just know are just probably not true, or we can't know. And then at the very end, when she's afraid that this guy is a killer, she tells the lead dog, whatever his name is, that I think that he's a killer. And so he says, "Oh, don't worry. If he is a killer, I'm going to get us all out of here. Don't worry." And then the little dog is like, "Wait, what? What killer? What are you talking about?" It's like, well, wait. So are we just following this premise that dogs don't like have agency and like are just stupid and don't have any short-term memory? Like,
so
it contradicts itself.
I think that's on purpose, though. So and I'm coming up with a theory here on the spot.
Okay.
What if it's the vet that killed? What if it's the vet that gave the drug to the dog, who was the killer of the owner, and the killer, because we don't know this, after she got drugged again prior to Maverick or whoever that dog is saying we need to figure out, and she's like, wait, what? Blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, I think it's a little deeper than there's just inconsistency in the writing.
Yeah. Which is why my analysis is deeper than that as well. That's just like a surface area problem.
Okay.
My biggest problem with the book is I understand what they were going for, but I think the execution, like I think they went too hard. I think the whole point was like they were trying to make this book that was, it lured you in, made you feel comfortable. Like this is very Disney. This is very like all these are nice, smooth palatable colors, smooth lines, just really easy art. Like the art here is like it was like I was watching a movie. Like it's very skilled and detailed art.
Mm-hmm.
But it got to the point where there was the woman getting strangled, and I was like, huh? What? Strangled? I'd literally bought this book because I knew there was a horror element to it, and by the time I got to that point, I was so drawn out of there that I was like, that was weird. And then they're like, yeah, the owner might be a killer, and I was like, no, you just like I don't even buy it. Like I literally don't even buy it. Like it's probably just gonna be that like this dog has bad memory and like her owner was like into kinky sex or something. I don't know. Like it's not, it's just not gonna be horrific. Like it's just I don't know. I just can't see a path forward in this book that makes me care at all.
So
maybe it's personal.
Will you pick up the issue number 2?
I will not. I will not be picking up issue number 2.
Okay. Fair enough.
So
I had the opposite. I was like, I was in it. I was like, ooh la la la, lollipops, rainbows, and then when the strangling happened, I was like, oh shit. Wasn't seeing like I guess I just didn't. I don't know. I guess I just didn't take the assumption, or not the assumption, the knowledge of it being a horror book. I don't want to say it dictated it because I don't think that happened to you. I just think, I don't know. I don't know where my expectation lied in the book. So when I opened it, my expectation was already thrown out the window because of the art style and how it was written. So, my initial reaction to the owner being strangled, I was like, ooh, like that's okay. We're going there. Like I didn't know how we were going to get there, but that's how we're getting there. And I think there's just a little, I don't know. I'm on the fence for 2. We'll see. It'll be a game day decision for me. But yeah, I don't, I wasn't overall like, whoa, that was really crazy. But also, I wasn't also kind of like, well, that kind of fucking sucked. Like I was kind of in the middle of between those 2.
Yeah, I was, and sometimes it's just like I don't know, just like a gut thing. But I just like, if and I think this is a 5 or 6 issue miniseries, and usually I would be like, almost the completionist in me would be like, well, I've already bought it, like I'll just get the 5 issues and whatever, and like it was so not appealing to me that I was for sure as soon as I closed the book I was like, I'm okay. I would rather pick up an extra Marvel book or an extra different independent. Like
that's fair enough. I mean, like I said, it's going to be a game time for me. Like with what we got coming up, like with Heroes Reborn, yeah, the pocketbook is going to be stretched. So I don't know. This might be one of the books that gets kind of put off to the side.
Yep.
But I wasn't expecting that for sure. I didn't know how it was going to be a horror book, and I was like, ooh, that's fucking dark, dude. All right, so that ends our show. Again, just a reminder, we got our 2 Fat Guys Pull List Mystery Pool that ends this Sunday for the month of February. If you do buy now at brainycomics.com, you do have a chance to win, if you do subscribe, Marvel's Venom number 9, the first appearance of Donny Cates, an $80 value there at a 9.8. And then also you get, all the other good stuff, 4 to 7 books in there, and a nice little store exclusive as well. So that is our show. Be on the lookout for YouTube content. We'll do another comic book haul video for Wednesday, talk about our pools for this coming Friday's show. So that's a little exclusive there. And then you never know, we might sprinkle in another show or another video about something. There's always something going on in comics.
Maybe even a random video game live stream, because I didn't tell you, but this Outriders game is awesome.
Okay, so maybe we'll be doing some video games this week. We'll see. You never know. Because that's, we do some random shit on this channel. Anyway, thanks again for watching, guys. Everyone that's watching, reminder, go out, buy some comics, read some comics, and as always, please wear a mask while doing it and while you're out in public. But other than that, we love you guys. And, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and hit that bell. We would greatly appreciate it. So that being said, we'll see you guys next week. Later.
Peace.